Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's June 30th, 2020, and today I thought I'd respond to a question that we get fairly regularly when people come and see our place. There's often, the underlying question, what's this all about? Who's doing it? What's your goal? And that's usually just when they pull down the driveway to the house and they're only seeing a small bit of what we do. So in response to a video that I posted about a week ago, June 23rd, 2020, Karen asked, or commented and asked, great information, Kevin. With so much land under cultivation, do you have helpers or do you do it all yourself? Also, do you sell produce, vegetables, nuts, and fruit commercially, or are you serving a larger community of folks coming together to share the work of your hands? Your gardens look amazing, so neat and tidy, and you have a great investment in plants, trees, and hardscape. Please explain your long-term plan for the acreage. Really good question, and I need to create a landing video. So when people come to our site and they want to go back to the YouTube channel, it'll explain what we're all about. But gradually, my goals and aspirations have changed over time. So the first part of the question, who's actually working here? Well, it's predominantly, it's solely Thea and I. Thea is my wife. She's still working full-time as a general practitioner veterinarian. And she's back to work full-time at this point with the pandemic. And she was an essential worker during the time when I was sick as well. So, it's Thea and I, and she has all the responsibility. Since we're whole food plant-based ourselves, and we really value, that's why we select the various crops that we grow here for their the phytonutrients that are in those specific varieties. That's why we grow blue potatoes as opposed to so many other varieties. It means we really want to maximize the nutritional content and make it bioavailable to us by the techniques that we use here on site. So all of the produce that we grow here, it's really also important for our own consumption. And since we have a really short growing season, we need to maximize the food processing and preparation for storage, whether it's in the root cellar or if it's inside of any place because it's all dehydrated or canned, then that works out pretty well. So she's working basically 2 full-time jobs, working at her occupation and working here as well. She gets a great deal of enjoyment, as do I, working outside and being in nature. And it's much more enjoyable now that we have the property developed to the level that it is. It's much less, oh, I have to go out and do weeding, or oh, I have to get out there and water everything. There have been those parts of that when we start up in the season, and this season was very slow to get started since I was so sick. So it's just Thea and I at this point doing all the work. Do we sell some of the products? So a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I started lots of seedlings and had beautiful small plants early in the spring ready for people to come and pick up, cheaper than Walmart prices or the Lowe's or the Home Depot or other Craigslist, and more beautiful and organic. But I hardly sold any of the plants, hardly worth the efforts at all. We gave them all away. I've been selling some potted berry plants, bare root plants. Now I don't sell these things through the mail at all. Do everything where people have got to come and pick up the plants here. And unfortunately, it hasn't been very successful. Now, that's my greatest weakness as well, is the social marketing skills. I just don't have those. I put ads on Craigslist, details of how to care for things. Sometimes I'm adding some of the nutrient information. But since we weren't so successful with selling the plants for gardeners, I went around to the produce stands in the area and talked to the people there, and people just are not very interested in organic here. In Oswego, which is a few miles away from us, there is a farmer's market there, which is well attended, and there are people who realize the benefits of organically grown food or nutritionally dense food as well. But in the area that we're in, there just isn't much of an appreciation for what we're offering. So that's a little disheartening, and certainly people aren't used to all of, persimmons and currants and gooseberries. People just aren't that familiar. They're familiar with raspberries, blackberries, and strawberries as their main, and blueberries. So we just live in an environment where it would require more skill and more intensity than what I have time for or the desire for trying to market our fruits and vegetables. But I will be propagating more and more trees, and I will find a place to put them, even if they aren't marketable. People are interested in, like I did put up by the road, was it last year or the year before, I put various blackberry plants, raspberry plants, bushes that were all set and packaged and all with an honor system, and unfortunately they were just taken. So I have to come up with a system that will work for being able to sell things more efficiently than the way I'm currently doing it. And it's really not my forte. That area isn't. I barely get a decent video out, not a good video yet here on YouTube. Really, a lot of editing should be done better than the way that I do it. But this is what I'm able to do thus far. I am committed to growing the knowledge base of the value of phytonutrients and organically grown foods and all, and realizing the benefits of having perennial plants as a backup for food resiliency for homeowners, understanding companion planting or guild planting as well, so that people aren't just taking a fruit or a nut tree, putting it out in their lawn, and then relying on fertilizing it or mulching it, and not really getting all the benefits of creating abundance with very little work by having the appropriate companion plants around it. So education is my strength, the thing that I'm most interested in sharing with people. What are our long-term plans? Well, that's to be determined as Thea gets to being retired and all. She loves working out here. It's very healing, I guess, when the job that you have is one of those where there's sad times where pets are euthanized. So she's a general practitioner veterinarian, doing all of the things that have to be done in a veterinary practice. So it's kind of nice just to be able to get released, to be out here, work in the gardens or work in the food forest, those sorts of things, and with the abundance of wildlife around here. So something that's extremely important to us is, the name of our place is Mindful Living Sanctuary. So the sanctuary part is, this is a place where we aren't going to be harming animals in any way. We're going to do everything we can to reduce the injury and show compassion, empathy for all creatures, great and small. And trying to even appreciate the microorganisms that live in the soil as well, so we get down to that level. So this is a sanctuary. It's not just a bee steward program or a permaculture site, permanent raised bed gardening site. It's a place where it's a sanctuary for all creatures, great and small. And the mindfulness part of it is very important as well. So we really appreciate all of these things. There's a reason why we're while we're doing the things that we're doing. And it comes from the soil microorganisms, the crops that we grow, the trees that we grow, the companion or guilds that we build, the living fences, the hedgerows, all of these things, the bioremediation systems. It's to create a resilient site that offers the opportunity for people to see some aspects of it and maybe encourage their own communities to develop something like that for their local community. Ultimately, my desire is for this property to live on for years beyond what we're able to do for Thea and I. Eventually, we're going to expire, and I'd love for the work that we've done here to at least have touched people, and potentially for this to be a place where people can come and visit and see how the different systems work, to learn about energy efficiency, thermal mass units, passive solar design, super insulation, so that people aren't spending money every month for heating and cooling and repairs, because building with the materials that are resilient to the climate and the natural elements, whether it's with the climate change, with heat, with fires, with floods, building and designing systems that are resilient and resist the negative effects of these environmental concerns. Realizing food security and water purity, and trying to create less waste and take whatever waste we have and turn that into food resources for the microorganisms and so on. So these are things that I want to have an impact on, and education is a big part of it. Ultimately, my dream is that we have volunteers that would come here, or even people who have an interest in maybe making some money, like an educator, someone going to the schools and with appropriate information that they can share with the various age groups of schools, and having small tours come here on site and seeing things. I'd like to have internships, work studies, internships from the universities and from high schools. There's something, I'm a judge, not every year, but for the Genius Olympiad. So the State University of New York College at Oswego, which I did my undergraduate work there, hosts a multi-international high school program where kids from all over the world, from all the different countries around the world, and come and share projects that they're working on. Now they work on art and music and other things, but the areas that I judge are where they're doing innovative technology, where they're either making capturing energy from wave motion, or building safe emission-controlled heating and cooking things for inside of third world nations, to composting toilet systems and all, to bioremediation system, passive solar and active solar, photovoltaic, drones, all sorts of amazing things. And ultimately, as people become more aware of what is possible, those are the things that I want to be able to do. I want to be able to capture the interests, the dreams of children, so that they can potentially make this world a better place for themselves and for their children in the future. So becoming more energy conscious, being more conservative with energy expenditure, being more productive with energy production, nutrient awareness, pesticide, or understanding the difference between pesticides and organic, understanding climate issues, understanding municipal water systems, some of the issues with those areas. There's so many areas that I find that are so important for our young people to be able to learn about, and hopefully their parents to learn while their children are learning as well. Ultimately, I'd also like to have it where people would come in and do some work in exchange for like a community-sponsored agricultural produce or whatever it is that they get out of it. So an example, years ago, Thea and I ran a 501c3 not-for-profit wildlife rehabilitation center where we had quite a few volunteers. But each year we would have an orientation lecture a day at a community center where we'd play videos. We'd, the local news, when they'd shoot different broadcasts about us releasing an owl or whatever it may be, or the deer that they'd see. Those videos we play, and then we do slide presentations, and then part of my thing would be saying, all right, it isn't all Bambiology and all, and bunny hugging. There's these pee and poop, and they make messes, and we have to put tubes into some of their stomachs to feed them. Some of them have terrible injuries. They have to be healed, and some of them don't make it, and they need to be euthanized. And so what looks like wonderful thing at the beginning of the presentation, some people are sort of turned away, but I'd rather them get it turned away during that orientation. And then maybe out of 50, 60 people who would come to that orientation, we'd have maybe a dozen or a dozen and a half people sign up to come and volunteer. And then the real work would happen where you're trying to train them to do the things. And we'd have some people who say they're interested in songbirds. Well, feeding baby songbirds, which some songbird species need to be fed like every 15 minutes while the sun's up. Or some people would be feeding the baby raccoons or the possums or the skunks, or somebody would be out working in the flight cages with the owls and all, which were less intensive work. Or some people would build nest boxes and those sorts of things. So out of those dozen and a half people, we might end up with one person that would keep coming for a couple of years. Often they'd be nurses or teachers, people who had a commitment to giving of themselves and sharing and got reward out of giving compassionate care and had empathy. And that's what I expected would happen in a place like this, mindful living sanctuary, where it is a sanctuary. The microorganisms in the soil are important to us, all the wildlife, the reptiles, the snakes aren't injured, the worms aren't injured, the bees aren't injured. Yes, mosquitoes are killed from time to time and ticks are killed. But we don't use pesticides, and we try to create an awareness of the nutrients that are in the crops that we're selecting as well. And I've tried shooting this a couple of times, but the phone rings and things, so I can't remember everything that I've said. So long term, I don't know what will ultimately come of things. 10 years ago, my ability to work from before sunrise to after sunset was every day, no problem. I could do that, no issues. I had a big health issue back in 2012, and then recently I had the viral infection, and these things really do knock the socks out of you, so I'm not able to get as many things accomplished. And like this year, I wanted to get the Solex roof on the greenhouse, but I'm so far behind with other things, getting things caught up here, I don't know that I'll even start the greenhouse this year. So I do create 5-year plans, 10-year plans, 15-year plans, 20-year plans and all, but they're all modified based on factors that I have not anticipated necessarily happen, such as a significant illness. Ultimately, I'd like to have the programs where we can have educational programs, workshops. We can have woofers potentially come in here, internships from colleges, from high schools, where we can have people coming and saying, geez, I don't have any interest in working in the garden, but I'd love to get some produce in exchange. How about I take care of the maintenance on your tractors? Or, the possibilities are significant. I don't know that we'll ever get those people. Thea has very good social skills. My skills aren't very refined as far as social skills. I don't have marketing skills. Thea doesn't have marketing skills. So we may bump into and foster a relationship like we did in the 501c3, the not-for-profit Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. We found someone who liked doing the book work, who liked organizing golf tournaments and news media events and all that sort of thing. I was taking care of managing the wildlife. That's what I loved to do back then. I love doing the work here on this place, and I like doing the education as well. So I don't know what will come out of everything. After Thea retires, I think we won't be so distracted by having to work, go to an occupation. We can be working on these things. And maybe I'll get to the point where I've got a website where we can start marketing things, and I'll start shipping products and all. But I see that as not being something really reasonable in the near future. I'm still trying to catch up on the things that we're doing thus far. I hope this all makes sense. Hopefully I'll make a landing page at some point in time where people who find our video and then they go to look at another video going to the YouTube channel, there will be a video that explains more about what we're doing. I had hoped to do lots of things like market gardening and all, but I don't see that as being a realistic possibility in this community that we're located in. We'd have to go ahead and take our produce and go to Syracuse or go to the Oswego Farmers Market and all, and I don't see that as being something that we can manage in the time that we have at this point. So I hope this all makes sense. I know I'm a bit long-winded. I hope I didn't leave too much out in this video. But Karen, that's a really great question, and I hope people find value out of this as well. So if you found this video of value, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. And by all means, folks, stay safe. Remember social distancing. Take good care of yourselves. Start gardening, and by all means, eat good, nutritious food. Bye-bye now.